Well, it's finally happening. Just a few moments ago, it came through the newswire that Trump is tasking a working group that he created through an executive order to evaluate the creation of a United States National Crypto Reserve. This is really exciting because, well, today's the day. The ball is officially rolling forward when it comes to the creation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I do find it interesting that it's termed a crypto reserve and not a Bitcoin reserve. I'll let your mind kind of go where it wants to with that. Is Bitcoin not going to be the only crypto the government owns? Or do they just say this so that they can purchase wrapped Bitcoin rather than real Bitcoin, unwrapped Bitcoin? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But further yet, this morning, Senator Loomis out of Wyoming was announced as the chair of the Senate Banking Digital Asset Subcommittee. That was a lot of words. And she has been long been a thought leader when it comes to crypto and Bitcoin in the United States government and the United States Congress. This is a big deal. She says that this subcommittee will pass legislation promoting responsible innovation and consumer protection, eradicate Operation Choke Point 2.0, and 3, make America the Bitcoin and digital asset capital of the world. It gets even better because this morning, President Trump spoke to the World Economic Forum and said this.
Make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto.
If you didn't catch that, he said he wants the United States to be the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. We truly have a pro-crypto president in office right now. So you may be asking, okay, what's Bitcoin's reaction to this? It must be just be skyrocketing higher and higher and higher. Well, not so much. And I'll refresh this, but it's at $103,000. And we've been trending between $100,000 and $107,000 per Bitcoin for a few weeks now. The reason that we haven't had such a positive reaction to this news is because a lot of it's been baked in. And I just mentioned this is just getting the ball rolling. The creation of a task group to evaluate the creation of a crypto reserve does not mean the government is about to buy Bitcoin. It means they're evaluating what they need to do in order to hold and buy Bitcoin officially on the books of the United States government's balance sheet, essentially. Now, that's the question. Is the strategic Bitcoin reserve just going to hold the some 200,000 Bitcoin that the government has basically seized over time from criminals? Or is this Bitcoin or strategic Bitcoin reserve going to be a reserve that actually purchases Bitcoin at spot prices and builds an entire stockpile of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies? That's still up in the air, and people really don't know. We all know Donald Trump loves his executive orders, but there is some limits to executive orders. When it comes to substantial financial commitments, usually it requires Congress to allocate money and create legal framework for that. So if we do form a strategic Bitcoin reserve, especially if it does end up purchasing Bitcoin and adding Bitcoin to its balance sheet, you're going to need Congress to pass some sort of legal framework and to allocate some funds to create this Bitcoin reserve. So this is just the beginning, but again, I mentioned how we just gained 298 pro-crypto lawmakers in Congress. So it's inevitable that this official strategic reserve will be created. There are still some questions of when that's going to happen, but it's a very positive development that the ball is officially rolling here. Now, I've heard some people on social media, just I guess through the years, talk about how the government should buy Bitcoin to pay off our debt, to pay off the government's debt. And to me, that sounds ludicrous. I don't think at all that's what the purpose of Bitcoin should be. I don't think that's at all why the government should buy Bitcoin. I think that's a lot of people just trying to create ways or reasons for the government to own Bitcoin. In the end, let's say that's true. Let's say the government buys Bitcoin to build a stockpile and hopefully get enough capital gains to eventually pay off a large portion of our debt. Well, I don't want to own Bitcoin whenever the government decides to sell. And I don't think you guys would either. And that's also kind of the problem here. When it comes to a strategic Bitcoin reserve, if they do choose to buy more Bitcoin, if that takes some sort of legal framework, or if it takes a bill passed in Congress to do so, the government's probably going to be front run by investors all over that know the government's about to purchase Bitcoin, which might actually end up in the government buying the short-term top in Bitcoin, which really wouldn't be a good thing. So there's a lot of gray area here, but it's a very positive thing today on January 23rd of 2025. The ball is rolling. Now, I'm going to cover this also in today's video. H.C. Wainwright, a Wall Street analyst firm, published a 50-page research report on Bitcoin and for Bitcoin mining stocks. And this actually was launched on January 6th. I'm not allowed to distribute this report because I'm not authorized to do so. They do send this to my inbox. I'm fortunate enough to be on several different research distribution lists for Wall Street firms. It's very helpful for the research I do. I'm just blessed by the connections I have, but I will talk about some of the things that are included in this report, as well as show you some charts that were included in this report. The reason I'm bringing this up is not only just because of H.C. Wainwright's Bitcoin price target, but it's also because I believe that owning Bitcoin mining stocks right now will give you some of the best exposure, most positive exposure to Bitcoin that you can get at this point in time. The Bitcoin mining stocks, if you've been away, they actually underperformed Bitcoin in 2024. So they've been out of favor for quite a while now. So this sets us up for a rare scenario where the fundamentals of Bitcoin mining companies continue to improve alongside Bitcoin prices that continue to go higher and higher and higher. But also there's a ton of room for multiple expansion within the Bitcoin mining stock names like CleanSpark. That's the company I own. I'm actually wearing a CleanSpark shirt right now. I don't know if you can read that, but it says For a Better World, and on this sleeve it says CleanSpark. But when it comes to H.C. Wainwright's price target for Bitcoin, they think by the end of 2025, by the end of the fourth quarter of the year, Bitcoin will hit $225,000 per coin. They have several reasons for this. Most of it is built on increased adoption from registered investment advisors, basically allocating their clients' funds to own more Bitcoin. And it's also because they believe that more and more S&P 500 companies will begin to allocate part of their cash balance to Bitcoin on their balance sheets. The one caveat that I think is very interesting is their $225,000 Bitcoin price prediction by the end of 2025 does not include a strategic Bitcoin reserve being formed in the government buying Bitcoin. They say that they think Bitcoin could far surpass that $225,000 level this year in 2025 if that strategic Bitcoin reserve is founded, essentially. And well, so far it's moving in that direction. So needless to say, Wall Street right now believes that Bitcoin is going to have a great year. And again, because those Bitcoin mining stocks have been out of favor and because their fundamentals keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger, right now I think they're a great buying opportunity. One area that I don't appreciate in H.C. Wainwright's research report is their reasoning that, well, because Bitcoin has historically gone up by this much post-halving event, it's going to do the same thing this time. They are essentially taking historical data and saying because it's happened in the past, it has to happen again. If you know anything about me in this YouTube channel, it's that I do not believe in perfectly predictable markets. If things were perfectly predictable in a market, investors would front run the top and they'd front run the bottom, which would render the perfectly predictable market perfectly unpredictable. There's no such thing as a 4-year cycle. It just so happens that different economic events have taken place that have, every 4 years that have impacted the price of Bitcoin. I do not think that because, I guess this chart shows it, we are here. There's a big arrow. We're 241 days post-halving event, which means that we have a long ways to go until Bitcoin officially tops. I agree with that. I agree with that conclusion, but the reasoning to get to that conclusion, I don't agree with whatsoever. And it's a matter of fact that even in Bitcoin's bull markets, it is subject to 20 and 30% drawdowns. It happens. It is a volatile asset. Now, hopefully, if Congress creates some legal framework or, as just the market for it develops, it should become less volatile as less companies go bankrupt and people don't make stupid decisions when it comes to leveraging their Bitcoin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're early on that learning curve of Bitcoin, which actually is a really good thing moving forward. Now, if you're a believer in Bitcoin like me, this is not a sponsor. I literally am doing this out of the kindness of my heart because I believe in this so strongly. You can stack Bitcoin with recurring buys fee-free. You don't pay any fees for it by creating an account on River. I will leave a link in the description down below for you to join River and create a recurring buy. I recently started buying $1 of Bitcoin per hour, so $24 of Bitcoin per day. And yeah, I'll make videos about that, in the future at the 6-month anniversary, at the 1-year anniversary, at the 2-year anniversary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, showing you what my portfolio looks like by stacking $1 of Bitcoin per hour. So check out that link in the description down below, but that was just a side tangent. Let's get back to this video. Now, to talk about the Bitcoin miners a little bit more exclusively here, in H.C. Wainwright's same research report, they show you all of the Bitcoin mining stocks in their coverage universe and what they have their current all-in cash costs per Bitcoin mined at. It's safe to say that all of these Bitcoin mining companies are very, very profitable on their Bitcoin. The company I own, CleanSpark right here, they're mining Bitcoin for $48,711, and that's to get an asset that right now is worth $103,000. So that's an immediate 100% return on an asset or return on what they produce as a business, which is a very, very positive thing. People always ask, well, why would you buy a Bitcoin miner when you can just buy MicroStrategy or you can buy the Bitcoin ETFs? And yes, I 100% agree with that. I own spot Bitcoin myself. I think that's a great investment to have. But when you're buying spot Bitcoin or you're buying a company or an ETF that buys spot Bitcoin, you don't get this leverage. As the price of Bitcoin rises, those companies, those entities, those funds also have to pay a higher and higher price to accumulate their Bitcoin. Where with the Bitcoin mining companies, their all-in costs to mine Bitcoin, to acquire Bitcoin, are relatively flat. It gets kind of complicated with difficulty levels and network hash rate and things like that. It rises slowly over time. But when Bitcoin's in a time period where it keeps increasing in value again and again and again, well, the all-in cost to mine Bitcoin stays relatively flat. It's relatively unmoved. Now, over time, yes, it will rise, but not near as much as the price of Bitcoin will. And let me tell you why. It's because of things like HPC and AI that are literally taking resources away from the Bitcoin mining market because they think HPC and AI is a better investment long-term. Well, that takes current and future hash rate offline, meaning that these Bitcoin miners, actually these stalwarts, I call them, actually control more and more and more of the total Bitcoin network, which means they make more money because they mine more Bitcoin. So not only is the fact that people are buying spot Bitcoin and the price of Bitcoin's going up benefiting these companies' fundamentals, but it's also HPC and AI and data centers that are taking resources away from Bitcoin mining that are improving the fundamentals of these companies. Right now, again, I think is such a great opportunity to buy these companies. My preferred pick for a long time now has been CleanSpark, and we've done very, very well with it. Now, what are some other reasons I expect Bitcoin miners to do well? Well, let's go back to Donald Trump. President Donald Trump this morning at the same World Economic Forum said he will demand that interest rates drop, quote, immediately. I've been saying this for a while on my YouTube channel. I don't think Donald Trump believes in a proper limit to economic growth. And if you ask me, and if you ask most other people, there is a proper limit to economic growth. But let's just look at how the bond markets reacted to Donald Trump saying he demands interest rates drop immediately. Well, the bond market kind of slapped him in the face, and Treasury yields, at least the 10-year Treasury, is up 0.04% today. So actually, interest rates have risen since Donald Trump made that comment this morning. But Trump should actually take that as a compliment because it means the bond market and it means the stock market believe the economy is going to stay strong and be stronger than expected as we move forward in time. That's a very, very good thing. If you ask me, with corporate profit margins at all-time highs and consumers in a very, very good shape and the labor market in very, very strong shape, I don't see a reason that interest rates need to be cut right now. You would kind of risk the economy actually overheating, which is what the bond market is saying. And if the economy overheats, that's not a good thing. Now, I actually believe that our economy and the stock market is in somewhat of a super cycle. I would not be surprised to see this stock market rally continue on into the 2030s. So another 4 or 5 years yet. And that is exciting, and that's a lot of the reason I believe Bitcoin mining stocks are going to do so well. What a lot of people will point to are current valuations in the stock market, saying that, well, valuations on stocks are really, really high right now, and that means it's not a good time to buy stocks. But to that I say, there's a reason for it. You should view valuations investors are willing to pay as their confidence in the economy. Their confidence that we will not see a recession hit anytime soon. Their confidence that the economy is going to continue to grow over time and maybe even stronger than expected growth. Right now, yes, valuations are historically high, but if you study how recessions, for example, have become much more infrequent and they've lasted much shorter in duration, it makes sense that investors are willing to pay more for the assets in the United States of America, because recessions are ultimately what cause bear markets. And if we didn't have a recession when interest rates went from 0% to 5.5%, why would we have a recession now that interest rates, at least the federal funds rate, has been cut by 100 basis points? It's just not likely to happen. And corporate profit margins are at all-time highs right now. So I think that we're actually in the early stages of this bull market, and I think it's going to take a while for it to unfold. Part of the reason I say that is because small cap companies have been out of favor. Rarely, if ever, do you have a stock market peak when small cap valuations are historically low and investors aren't chasing risk by buying those small cap companies. I think that's the next phase. That's the next leg of the stock market is investors. It's how every bull market develops. They start to chase more and more risk to get more and more return, which eventually results in investors getting over leveraged, and eventually the markets have to correct. The downside with that is with a super cycle, the fallout might be more painful than we've ever experienced before. And the reason I say that is because a higher percentage of Americans' net worth than ever before is tied up in the stock market, meaning that United States citizens' net worth is very, very much dependent on how the stock market does. And if the stock market crashes because of some debt crisis that happens in the future, well, so are people's net worths. They're going to crash. And as a result of that, spending in the economy is going to slow down. Businesses are probably going to fire employees. This is not going to be a pretty picture. And that's kind of the scenario we're setting up for right now. But I don't think we're at that point yet. That's the only way I see a truly, years-long bear market happening is a super cycle that forms, and eventually, things fall down when we get over leveraged. I think that's the future. I don't have a crystal ball. Now, just last week, I launched a Patreon portfolio. You guys know we've outperformed the markets for several years now by quite a wide margin if you've been following this channel. But I've yet to launch a members portfolio. So I deposit $100 every week. I want to prove that you can start at basically ground zero and build a portfolio into something truly special and strong over time. So over the course of the next 12 months, I'll deposit around $5,200 and hopefully grow it into something much more than that. But if you want access to those buy and sell alerts, etc., and we have a lot of fun in the Discord server. I post a lot of exclusive content for my members, and you get to support me. I'm entirely independent and self-funded, so it helps me out a lot. If you're interested in that, hit the join button located right next to the subscribe button, or you can hit the Patreon link in the pinned comment down below. I would greatly appreciate that. We're going to do some more buying here very, very soon in that portfolio, and right now I've been buying 2 life-changing stocks. In my personal opinion, they will be life-changing over time. And I'm working on a third one for that members portfolio. And that members portfolio tracks what I do in my private portfolios pretty closely. So you'll be able to you'll see what return I get while I get to protect some of my personal private information. But anyways, with that, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. If you're new here or returning, not yet subscribed, please subscribe down below. Have a great rest of your day. Stay blessed. Keep 10 toes grounded, your chin up. Peace out.